There's a version of you that scares your excuses. A version so focused, so sharp, so dangerously smart, it makes the distractions tremble. But that version, it doesn't show up by accident. It's not born, it's built. So if you've ever felt like you're behind, like you're not good enough, like you can't catch up, good. That means you're awake. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to build a mind that cuts through the noise, takes control, and wins. And you want to become dangerously smart? Start by getting brutally honest about one thing. You don't know yourself as well as you think you do. That's not an insult. It's a starting point. Most people walk through life operating on autopilot, reacting to things, repeating behaviors, making decisions, not based on deep thinking, but based on old wiring. The same patterns, the same excuses, the same internal dialogue. And they wonder why nothing changes. They think the problem is out there in the job, in the relationship, in the opportunity they didn't get. But the real block, it's you. Not knowing how your own mind operates. Self-awareness is the foundation of dangerous intelligence because it gives you leverage. You cannot outsmart a system you don't understand. And your brain is a system. It's a pattern-making machine that's been conditioned by years of repetition, feedback, trauma, wins, losses, and emotions. Every thought you think, every reaction you have, every belief you hold, it's all been built through a loop that you probably didn't even choose. But here's the good news. Once you can see the pattern, you can break the pattern. That's when things shift. That's when the lights come on. That's when intelligence becomes lethal because it's directed with clarity. Think about it. What if the biggest reason you're stuck isn't because you lack intelligence, but because you haven't taken time to understand what drives you? Why you get anxious in certain situations, why you sabotage your own progress, why you talk yourself out of things you know you want. That's not just random behavior, it's programming. And dangerous intelligence begins when you start looking inward instead of constantly reacting outward. Now let's get practical. Want to build self-awareness? Start tracking your emotional responses. When something upsets you, don't just react. Pause and ask, why did that hit me so hard? What belief is being triggered here? Most people don't do this because they're too busy blaming or escaping. But the smartest people in the room, they reflect. They get curious about their own triggers. They dissect their reactions, not to judge themselves, but to understand themselves. Because when you understand what drives you, you stop being a puppet pulled by invisible strings, and you become the one who pulls the strings. Another way to develop dangerous self-awareness is to look at your habits, especially the ones you don't notice. The way you talk to yourself in the mirror, the first thing you reach for in the morning, the excuses you make when it's time to do something hard. Your habits are mirrors. They reflect what you believe about yourself. And if you pay attention, they'll tell you everything you need to know about what's going on beneath the surface. The smartest people aren't just readers and thinkers, they're observers. They study their own behavior like a scientist studies an experiment. They watch for patterns. They notice when they're spiraling. They catch themselves slipping into negativity or distraction. And instead of shaming themselves, they adjust. That's what makes them dangerous. They're not perfect. They're aware. And awareness leads to better choices. Here's the thing, real intelligence isn't about how much you know. It's about how well you manage what's happening inside you. You can be the most educated person in the room and still self-destruct if you don't know how to handle your emotions, your impulses, or your thought spirals. That's why people who seem average on paper end up creating massive success. They have a deep understanding of how they operate, and they use that awareness to grow fast, adapt faster, and execute when it counts. Ask yourself, where am I lying to myself? Because self-deception kills growth. Maybe you're telling yourself you're too busy or not ready or that now isn't the right time. But deep down, you know those are defense mechanisms designed to protect you from discomfort, not to help you grow. If you want to unlock your mind's full potential, you have to stop hiding behind fake stories. Rip them apart. Get real about what you want, what you're afraid of, and what's actually holding you back. There's a reason awareness feels uncomfortable, because it exposes everything you've been avoiding. But in that exposure is power. Once you see something clearly, you can change it. You can redirect it. You can upgrade it. And when you do that over and over, day after day, with discipline and honesty, you build a level of intelligence that can't be faked. It becomes part of you. And here's what happens next. Your decisions get sharper. Your confidence grows, not from hype, but from truth. You don't need validation because you know who you are. You don't crumble under pressure because you've studied how you respond to stress. You don't get stuck in loops because you've trained yourself to notice when you're slipping. That's what dangerous intelligence looks like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's calm, focused, and brutally self-aware. So if you want to become dangerously smart, start with this. Learn your patterns, own your flaws, catch yourself in the act, and every time you become more aware of what's really going on inside you, smile, because you just took one step closer to becoming unstoppable. You live in a time when knowledge is limitless. You can learn anything, literally anything, without ever stepping into a classroom. You've got lectures in your pocket, expert opinions in your feed, tutorials on demand, and yet people are stuck. People are overwhelmed, paralyzed, frozen in place. Not because they don't have enough information, but because they don't use it. The truth is, intelligence in this generation isn't about what you know, and this is where most people fall behind. They read the book and feel like they've accomplished something. They listen to a podcast and think, that's it, I'm changing my life. They highlight every single quote in a self-help book, and yet their habits don't change. Their lives don't shift. The ideas stay in their head and never touch their actions. They confuse consumption with progress, and that confusion is costing them everything. See, when you only consume, you become a library, impressive on the outside, but untouched, unused, and static on the inside. You collect ideas, but never deploy them. You store strategies, but never implement. You know what to do, but you don't do it. And here's the raw truth. Ideas without execution are useless. The world doesn't reward what you know, it rewards what you do. The smartest people in the world aren't the ones with the highest IQs. They're the ones who take what they've learned and move on it fast. They learn, test, adapt, refine, over and over again, because intelligence today is no longer about access to knowledge, it's about speed to action. Think about it. You've already read about morning routines, productivity hacks, emotional regulation, time management, communication skills. You've seen the quotes, shared the videos, maybe even taken notes. But has it changed how you show up tomorrow morning? Has it changed how you respond under pressure? Has it changed how you lead yourself through chaos? If not, the problem isn't the information, it's the lack of activation. You're letting knowledge sit still. And when knowledge sits too long without movement, it dies. It turns into guilt, regret, frustration. That's when you say, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. And that's the most painful place to live. Knowing you could be better, but watching yourself stay the same. The solution is simple, but uncomfortable. You've got to act before you're ready. The second something clicks in your mind, it should trigger a decision, a move, a habit, a small change. Not next week, not when you feel like it, now. Because when you act, even in small ways, your brain starts wiring those lessons into behavior. You stop being just a thinker. You become a doer. You stop being someone who talks about change and become someone who embodies it. That's when intelligence becomes dangerous. That's when your mind becomes a weapon, sharp, fast, powerful. It's the difference between potential and performance. between knowing the path and walking it. And make no mistake, every time you act on something you've learned, you're not just learning faster, you're building confidence, self-respect, momentum. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe that when you learn something new, you will use it. You stop procrastinating. You stop second guessing. And that's when the world starts to respond differently to you. Because you're not just smart anymore, you're effective. You're not just informed, you're dangerous. Dangerously smart people don't wait to become experts. They apply what they know and let experience make them wise. They're not the ones who spend 10 hours researching. They spend 1 hour learning and 9 hours testing. They build feedback loops between learning and action. They make mistakes fast. They learn faster. They evolve. And the best part, you don't need permission. You don't need another certification. You don't need another deep dive. You need movement. You need execution. You need to take that thing you already know and use it today. Not perfectly, just powerfully. Start small. One decision, one action. Take that strategy you learned about planning your day and actually plan it. Use that mindset shift you heard in a podcast and apply it the next time you feel stuck. Practice what you've been learning like your life depends on it, because it does. You want to be dangerously smart? Stop hoarding information and start turning it into impact. Don't just nod your head when something inspires you. Move, shift, adjust, build. Because the clock is ticking, and brilliance without action is just wasted potential. The world doesn't need more people who know, it needs people who do. Your edge, the one that will make you unstoppable, isn't just in learning faster, it's in moving faster. Starting now. Curiosity is often misunderstood. People think it's a childlike trait, something you grow out of when you become an adult. But here's the truth. Curiosity is one of the most powerful tools for intelligence, growth, and transformation. If you want to become dangerously smart, you have to become dangerously curious, not passive, not casually interested. I'm talking about relentless curiosity, the kind that keeps you asking why long after everyone else has settled for answers. Because most people, they stop asking. They accept what they're told, repeat what they hear, and live inside a mental box someone else built for them. They go through life memorizing instead of understanding. But memorization isn't intelligence. True intelligence comes from the ability to dig deeper, to challenge assumptions, to investigate what no one else even notices. That starts with a question. Always. Think about this. Every breakthrough, every invention, every transformation in human history started with curiosity. Someone looked at the world and said, why does it work this way? What if we did it differently? Is there a better way? And they didn't just ask once. They asked over and over and over until they broke through. That's not just smart. That's unstoppable. But here's where most people go wrong. They treat curiosity like it's optional, like it's something you turn on when you're bored. But if you want to sharpen your thinking, you have to train your curiosity like a muscle. Every time something confuses you, lean in. Don't scroll past it. Don't ignore it. Ask, why do I believe this? What's the data behind it? What's the counter-argument? The more you ask, the more your brain adapts. Becomes faster, sharper, more adaptable. That's what it means to be smart in the real world. School teaches you to find the right answer, but life demands that you find better questions. That's the difference. Anyone can repeat facts, but can you question them? Can you challenge what's popular, what's comfortable, what's always been done? That's the mindset that separates average thinkers from dangerous ones. Because when you question everything, you see patterns no one else sees. You spot opportunities others miss. You see beneath the surface. Now let's talk about the fear, because there's a reason most people don't ask too many questions. They're afraid. Afraid of looking dumb, afraid of being wrong, afraid of standing out. But let me tell you something, asking questions doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. The smartest people in the room are not the ones with the loudest opinions. They're the ones quietly collecting information, connecting dots, and asking questions that make everyone else pause. And curiosity doesn't stop with information, it fuels action. When you're curious, you try things, you experiment, you fail fast and learn faster. You don't wait for perfect answers because you understand that learning happens through the doing. Curiosity turns fear into momentum. You stop obsessing over what could go wrong and you start chasing what you could discover. But if you want to really activate your curiosity, you need to change your environment. Who you spend time with matters. If you're around people who settle, who don't question anything, who are content with average, your curiosity will die. But surround yourself with thinkers, doers, challengers. Your questions get sharper. Your brain starts to stretch. You elevate without even realizing it, because curiosity is contagious. Also, get comfortable with not knowing. That's hard for some people. We've been taught to always have the answer. But being smart isn't about having the answer. It's about the willingness to search, to explore, to stay in the unknown longer than most are comfortable. If you can sit in uncertainty and keep asking, keep thinking, keep looking, you'll grow in ways most people never will. So if you want to become dangerously smart, don't memorize more facts. Train your brain to ask better questions. Become obsessed with learning. Stop accepting surface level knowledge. Dig, go deeper. Be that person who never stops at, that's just how it is. Question why it is. Ask what's next. Ask who benefits. Ask what's missing. The more you ask, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more powerful your mind becomes. And here's the wild part. Curiosity compounds. The more questions you ask, the more insights you gain. The more insights you gain, the more dots you can connect. Over time, you start seeing solutions faster, making decisions with clarity, and predicting problems before they even happen. That's not magic. That's trained curiosity. That's intelligence in motion. So don't kill your questions. Don't silence your curiosity just to fit in. If something doesn't make sense, dig. If something seems off, explore it. That's how your brain grows. That's how you become more than informed. You become dangerous. Because the world isn't changed by people who know everything. It's changed by people who keep asking. Your attention is the most valuable currency you own, and most people are going broke without even realizing it. Think about it. Every single day, you're given the exact same number of attention credits as the most successful people in the world. Same 24 hours, same mental capacity to focus, to learn, to grow. But here's the difference. Where they invest those credits, you might be giving them away for free. Your attention is not passive. It is energy. It is focus. It is power. And whatever you give your attention to, you strengthen. If you give it to endless scrolling, mindless content, and unnecessary drama, you're literally programming your brain to crave distraction. You're teaching it to chase dopamine instead of direction. And that's the danger, because your brain will start believing that chaos is normal and silence is uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable with silence, you'll never hear your own thoughts clearly enough to become truly smart. The world is fighting for your attention. Algorithms, ads, clickbait, headlines, opinions, noise. And it's not fighting fair. These platforms are engineered to hijack your brain's reward system. They are built to make you addicted. You're not weak because you fall into it. You're human, but that doesn't mean you stay there. You don't get smarter by being informed on everything. You get smarter by focusing on the right things. One course of action, one deep skill, one meaningful project, one direction executed relentlessly. Distraction isn't just the thief of time, it's the assassin of intelligence. Every time you break your focus, your brain has to reset. Studies show it takes 20 minutes to get back into a deep state of focus after you check your phone. So if you check your phone 6 times while working on something important, you're not just losing minutes, you're losing momentum. And intelligence without momentum is like horsepower without traction. It looks impressive, but it's going nowhere fast. Let me be brutally honest. You will never outsmart someone who's obsessed with focus. You can have more talent, more degrees, more natural intelligence, but if your mind is split in 50 directions, you're playing checkers while they're playing chess. The person who guards their focus like it's sacred, that person becomes dangerous because they're working when others are distracted. They're learning while others are complaining. They're evolving while others are stuck, reacting to everything around them. Smart people build systems to protect their attention. They don't rely on motivation or willpower. They set up their environment so distractions are minimized by default. They block notifications. They time block deep work. They keep their phone out of reach when thinking. They say no to the meetings, the gossip, the unnecessary noise, not because they're arrogant, but because they value their brain power. You don't get more mental energy by pushing harder. You get it by protecting what you already have. And here's something most people don't talk about. The deepest intelligence comes from sustained attention. Long enough to see patterns others miss. Long enough to push past the surface into insight. Long enough to connect dots that the distracted mind never even sees. The average mind consumes, the dangerous mind connects. But you can't connect dots when you're being pulled in 10 different directions every 5 minutes. We live in a time where people treat distraction like it's normal, like it's no big deal. But if you let your mind be trained by endless noise, you are literally surrendering your potential, and not just a little, all of it. Your dreams, your discipline, your clarity, your edge, all of it fades every time you choose distraction over focus. You want to become dangerously smart? Start asking yourself a new question every single day. Is this worth my attention? Not just your time, your attention. Because where your attention goes, your energy flows, and where your energy flows, results grow. Don't give that away to things that don't move you forward. Don't invest it in things that don't serve your purpose. Don't waste it on people who don't respect it. You control what you feed your mind, and your mind becomes what you feed it. It's not magic. It's not motivation. It's wiring. You are either training your brain to focus or letting the world train it to fragment. And here's the key. Every single day you choose focus, your brain gets sharper. Every hour you guard your attention, your thinking gets deeper. Every decision to tune out the noise is a decision to tune into your potential. Dangerous intelligence isn't about how much you know. It's about how well you can lock in. Focus is your multiplier. Master it, and everything changes. Because the person who can hold attention longer than the rest, that's the person who finishes what others quit, sees what others miss, and becomes what others only dream about. And that person can be you, if you choose it. Most people don't realize this, but one of the most powerful signs of intelligence isn't found in your vocabulary or your ability to solve complex problems. It's in your ability to stay calm. Emotional control is one of the rarest, most underestimated forms of intelligence. It's not flashy. It doesn't show up on your resume, but it changes everything. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when your boss blindsides you with criticism, when life throws something unexpected at you, what do? That moment, that tiny window between the trigger and your reaction, that's where intelligence lives. Most people react. They explode, shut down, lash out, or spiral. But the ones who are truly smart, they pause, they process, and then they respond. Emotional control is the difference between making a mistake and making progress. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending to be unbothered. That's not control, that's denial. Emotional control means you feel the emotion, but you don't let it hijack your brain. You recognize it, name it, and choose your response. That choice is everything. Because your emotions are powerful. They're the fire, but without control, fire doesn't warm. It burns down everything in its path. Imagine this. You're in a meeting and someone challenges your idea. You instantly feel that spark, anger, defensiveness, maybe even shame. In that split second, your brain is flooded with cortisol and your heart rate rises. Most people go on autopilot in that moment. They interrupt, they snap, they shut down, and in doing that, they hand over their power. But a person with emotional intelligence, a dangerously smart person, doesn't take the bait. They take a breath, they scan the room, they hear what's being said beneath the words, and then they speak, not from ego, but from clarity. Why is that so important? Because the world doesn't reward reactivity, it rewards composure, it rewards clarity. Think about the most powerful leaders, coaches, strategists. They don't just outthink the competition, they outregulate. They manage their energy, their impulses, their tone, because they know once you lose control of your emotions, you lose control of the situation. And here's what people get wrong. They think emotional control is something you either have or you don't. That's a lie. It's not a trait. It's a skill. You train it. You build it. You stretch it. Every time you choose to breathe instead of break. Every time you pause instead of pounce. The moment you feel yourself heating up, that's not the moment to speak. That's the moment to listen to yourself. Most of us were never taught this. We were taught to bottle things up or blow things up. We weren't taught how to sit with an emotion and separate the feeling from the fact. But if you want to become dangerously smart, you have to stop letting your temporary emotions make permanent decisions. Because here's the truth. Emotions are data, not direction. They're information, not instruction. Let's be real. Life is full of people who will test you, push you, provoke you. Your intelligence is measured by how little you let them move you. Someone's rude to you, that's not about you. Someone doubts you, that's fuel, not a fact. Your power comes when you stop giving away your peace to every inconvenience or insult. And yes, that takes practice. It takes maturity. But it also takes something deeper, a decision. A decision that says, my peace is expensive. Not everything gets a reaction from me. Do you know how rare that is? To be calm in chaos? To be still while others are spiraling? That's not weakness. That's mastery. Because when your mind is calm, it's sharp. And when it's sharp, you can see what others miss. You can think clearly, choose wisely, and move strategically. You've got to train your nervous system like it's part of your intelligence. Because it is. When your emotions run hot, your IQ drops. That's not a metaphor, that's biology. The more dysregulated your body, the less access you have to logic, memory, and reason. So emotional control isn't just about staying chill. It's about keeping your brain online when it matters most. The next time you feel that rush, anger, fear, shame, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Because your emotions are your teachers, but only if you're smart enough to listen without obeying them. And here's the final truth. The world is watching how you respond in relationships, in business, in crisis. People follow the calm. People trust the steady. You don't have to be the loudest in the room. Be the clearest. Be the most composed. That's how you win. Because when you master your emotions, you don't just become harder to shake. You become impossible to manipulate. And that's when you know you're not just smart, you're dangerously smart. Discomfort is the birthplace of growth. Most people run from it, hide from it, or numb it. But if you want to become dangerously smart, you need to flip the switch in your brain and start chasing discomfort like it's a training ground. Because it is. Your mind, just like your body, doesn't grow when it's comfortable. It grows when it's stretched, challenged, and put under pressure. The truth is, intelligence isn't built in comfort zones. It's built in the trenches when you're out of your depth, unsure, and forced to adapt. Think about it. Every breakthrough you've ever had in your life probably came right after a season of stress, failure, or challenge. That's not a coincidence. That's biology. When you're uncomfortable, your brain kicks into gear. It starts looking for solutions, building new connections, creating new pathways. It's like a mental gym. And every time you lean into discomfort instead of running from it, you're lifting heavier mental weights. And just like in the gym, that resistance is exactly what causes growth. The problem is, most people misinterpret discomfort. They think discomfort means they're doing something wrong, that they should back off, that it's a sign they're not good enough. But it's actually the opposite. Discomfort is a signal that you're in new territory, and that's where all your potential lives. Smart people know that. They don't fear discomfort. They don't avoid it. They use it. They mine it. They turn it into power. Ask yourself, when was the last time you did something that made your brain sweat? Not physically exhausting, mentally exhausting. Something that made you question yourself, stumble, or even fail. If it's been a while, you're not growing, you're coasting. And you cannot become dangerously smart while coasting. Because coasting keeps you stagnant. Coasting dulls your edge. If you're not challenging your beliefs, your skills, your thinking patterns, you're stuck, even if it looks like you're moving. One of the most intelligent things you can do is develop the habit of doing hard things on purpose. That's right, on purpose. Whether it's learning a subject you're unfamiliar with, tackling a conversation you've been avoiding, putting yourself in rooms where you're the least knowledgeable person. This is where mental elevation happens. Discomfort isn't something you survive. It's something you practice. You build tolerance to it, and over time you start to crave it because it becomes proof that you're leveling up. Look at any top performer in any field, athletes, entrepreneurs, inventors, creators, and you'll find someone who learned how to live in discomfort. They don't avoid it, they expect it. They've trained their minds to equate discomfort with progress. And once you do that, you stop panicking every time things get hard. You stop doubting yourself every time you're confused. Instead, you lean in, you dig deeper, you stretch your capacity. This shift is critical because discomfort doesn't just train your brain, it teaches you how to handle uncertainty, pressure, and complexity. In today's world, intelligence isn't just about what you know, it's about how you adapt. The smartest people aren't the ones with the most degrees, they're the ones who can stay calm and clear-headed in chaos. They can walk into an unfamiliar situation and figure it out on the fly. That kind of agility only comes from one place: exposure to discomfort. It also forces humility. When you're uncomfortable, you realize how much you don't know. That's not weakness, it's power, because it keeps your ego out of the way. And when your ego is out of the way, learning accelerates. You become more open, more coachable, more willing to admit mistakes and correct them. Discomfort teaches you that you're not always right, and that realization alone will push your intelligence to new levels. It's also where resilience is built. You can't develop mental toughness reading about it. You develop it when you're in the middle of something hard and your mind starts whispering, maybe you're not cut out for this. But instead of backing down, you take one more step, one more rep, one more attempt. And every time you do that, you chip away at the part of you that wants to quit and reinforce the part of you that becomes unstoppable. If you really want to transform your mind, stop waiting for the right time, the perfect plan, the comfortable conditions. Start walking straight into what makes you nervous, anxious, uncertain. Let yourself feel the tension. That's where the breakthrough is hiding. That's where the intelligence is forged, in the friction, in the questions, in the hard conversations and hard decisions. That's the edge you're looking for. So no, you don't need to feel ready. You need to get uncomfortable, because in that space, Your brain is forced to grow. It's forced to think, adapt, and stretch beyond its limits. And that's the real secret. Dangerous intelligence isn't about knowing more, it's about growing more. And discomfort is the classroom where the smartest minds are made. Most people are addicted to movement, the constant doing, checking, replying, running, always in motion, always chasing. But motion doesn't equal progress, and in that endless race, they forget the power of what looks like stillness, thinking, deep thinking, uninterrupted thinking, intentional thinking. That's where your real power lives. You want to become dangerously smart, you need to stop doing for a moment and start thinking. Because thinking time is not a waste of time, it's the most valuable investment you can make in yourself. Look around. Most people don't take even 5 minutes to reflect. They're so caught up in reacting that they never step back to ask if they're reacting to the right things. They're solving problems, yes, but are they solving the right ones? Are they fixing the surface while ignoring the root? The ones who win, the ones who rise above, they take time to step out of the noise and go inward. They don't just ask, what do I do next? They ask, why am I doing this? Is this the best path? Is there a smarter move here? That kind of thinking creates leverage. Leverage multiplies effort. It compresses decades of trial and error into moments of clarity. But here's the problem. Thinking requires you to be still, and stillness is uncomfortable. It's awkward to sit with yourself. It's hard to face your decisions, your distractions, your patterns. So most people avoid it. They stay busy and confuse that with being effective. But activity without direction is just noise. Dangerous intelligence comes when you can quiet the noise and go deep. Imagine if before every decision you took 10 minutes to think it through, not to worry, not to procrastinate, but to map it out, to evaluate it, to understand the ripple effect. That 10 minutes can save you 10 hours of wasted effort, 10 days of course correction, 10 years of regret. This is how the elite operate, not by doing more, but by thinking better. It's how they cut through complexity. It's how they see 5 moves ahead while others are still reacting to the first. Thinking sharpens your intuition. It connects the dots that others don't even see. It gives you that edge, that clarity that makes people wonder how you always seem to make the right moves. But it's not luck. It's thinking time, strategic silence, deliberate reflection. Dangerous intelligence isn't reactive, it's predictive, it's proactive, it anticipates, it prepares. And that kind of thinking only happens when you slow down. Even 5 minutes a day can change everything. Sit in silence, ask yourself better questions. What am I doing right now that no longer serves me? What decision have I been avoiding? What fear is controlling me today? Where is my time actually going? When you start asking these questions, you unlock insights most people never access, not because they're not smart, but because they never take the time to ask. Don't let the world rush you. Don't let deadlines trick you into urgency without purpose. Train your mind to pause and step back before you step forward. That pause, that gap between stimulus and response, that's where intelligence lives. That's where your next level gets built. You don't need more hustle, you need more awareness. Because when you think better, you move better, you speak with intention, act with precision, and that makes you dangerous. In a world addicted to speed, thinking is rebellion. In a culture obsessed with hustle, clarity is a weapon. And if you want to elevate your life, your business, your mindset, you have to make thinking a daily ritual. Wake up and think. Wind down and think. Don't just reflect when things go wrong. Reflect when things go right, too. What worked? Why? How can I double it? That's how momentum is created, not by guessing, but by knowing. And knowing only comes through thought. Thinking time builds mental discipline. It forces you to slow down enough to become intentional. It's not a waste. It's not passive. It's strategic, it's powerful. It's how you stop repeating mistakes and start building systems. It's how you stop reacting emotionally and start responding intelligently. Most people live on default, but thinking is how you design. The brain is a machine, but without calibration, it runs wild. It gets hijacked by emotion, distraction, noise. Thinking is how you calibrate it. It's how you program it to focus, to adapt, to grow. The smarter you want to become, the more space you need to think. So carve it out, protect it, build it into your routine like a non-negotiable. Because that quiet time, that mental dojo, is where you train for the real battles. Everyone wants to be ahead, but the truth is the person who thinks just a little longer, just a little deeper, makes better moves. And better moves create better outcomes. That's not theory, that's strategy. It's the edge you've been looking for. It's the reason some people seem to win faster. They're not rushing, they're thinking. And now you can too. Not someday, not when things slow down. Today, start now, because the smartest version of you is already in there, waiting for you to slow down long enough to meet them. You want to become dangerously smart? Then you need to understand this. Repetition is the mother of mastery. It's not flashy, it's not glamorous, but it's the truth. Smart people don't just know things. They know them so well, so deeply, that the knowledge becomes second nature. And the only way to get there is through repetition. It's not a hack. It's not a secret. It's a principle of human wiring. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. It learns through cycles. Repetition is how neural pathways are formed, strengthened, and automated. The more you repeat something, the easier it becomes for your brain to retrieve, apply, and rely on it instantly, without hesitation. The problem with most people is that they want to be good after one try. They read a book and expect transformation. They practice a skill once or twice and expect results. That's not how it works. Intelligence isn't built in the first attempt. It's built in the 10th, the 50th, the 500th. Repetition is the grind that turns average thinking into elite clarity. It's the difference between someone who has to think through every step and someone who just moves with confidence and accuracy. Imagine this. You're learning a new language. The first time you hear a word, it's foreign. You forget it, you stumble, but then you hear it again and again. You write it, you speak it, you use it in a sentence. One day, you're not even thinking about it. It just rolls off your tongue. That's not luck. That's repetition doing its job. It doesn't just make things easier, it makes them automatic. Now take that and apply it to everything. Critical thinking, emotional control, discipline, learning, communication. You want to be better at managing your emotions? Practice breathing, practice pausing. Every single time you get triggered, use that as a rep. Eventually, it becomes second nature. You want to think more clearly under pressure? Practice solving problems with a calm mind over and over until it's who you are. Smart people aren't born with this. They train it through deliberate, repeated action. Think about athletes, think about musicians, think about coders, doctors, speakers, creators. The best of the best all have something in common. They repeat the fundamentals relentlessly. They don't outgrow the basics. They master them because they know that excellence isn't about doing extraordinary things. It's about doing ordinary things exceptionally well, over and over again. That's what makes someone dangerously smart. They don't get bored with mastery. They fall in love with it. Let me tell you what repetition does to your brain. It creates automaticity. That means your brain no longer has to work hard to do what used to be difficult. It creates mental shortcuts, high-speed access to complex tasks, because you've trained it. And when something is automatic, it's fast, it's smooth, it doesn't drain your mental energy. That frees you up to focus on higher level thinking, problem solving, and creativity. You stop wasting energy on how and start focusing on what's next. Repetition also builds confidence. You know why some people hesitate when they speak, when they act, when they make decisions? It's not because they're not smart. It's because they haven't repeated success enough to believe in it. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's the byproduct of competence. And competence is built through reps. You do something so many times you know you've got it. You don't hope, you know. And that knowing changes the way you walk into rooms, handle challenges, and face uncertainty. And here's something that nobody tells you. Repetition will make you face yourself. It will force you to deal with your excuses, your frustration, your need for novelty, your addiction to comfort. Every time you show up and do the reps, especially when you don't feel like it, you're building not just intelligence, but mental toughness. You're proving to your brain that discipline leads, not mood, not motivation, discipline. And that's how you develop dangerous intelligence, when you train your mind to work not just when it's inspired, but especially when it's not. So don't chase hacks. Don't look for shortcuts. Don't fall for the illusion that someone got where they are overnight. Behind every high-performing brain is a mountain of repetition. Study, apply, repeat, reflect, repeat again. Keep doing it until people ask you, how did you get so sharp? And you'll smile because you'll know the truth. They were watching the highlights, but you were doing the reps. And that's what makes you dangerously smart.